Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com, who has the best tools online, or really anywhere, maybe even offline, but technically you have to be online since it is a website. Anyway, they are the best fantasy basketball tools to prepare you, not just for your draft in a head-to-head league or in a roto league, but they also got auction tools. They got weekly schedules that will adjust based on the lineup that you can import from your Yahoo League. They got trade analyzers. They got all sorts of really awesome stuff, plus Mark Roberts' projections, where you can actually customize those projections if you disagree with Mark Roberts, which me and Tyler often do. So go check out #basketball.com right now. I am your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Oh, Michael, how are you this fine day?
Well, I'm doing all right. I had a long weekend in the nation's capital, celebrating the marriage of two fine people, and the
Was one of
marriage.
you?
It was not me. But I did get married to a couple bottles of bourbon at some point. So it has been it was a rough and fun, exciting weekend. What have you been up to, Tyler?
Well, Michael, I watched a great basketball game this morning, and I was assuming one I saw that you watched, because I would like to read you a tweet, and then I would like to challenge you on this tweet. Are you prepared for this?
I'm not. I often tweet out without thinking about it.
Okay, so for those catching up, right, the Dallas Mavericks and the Philadelphia 76ers concluded their trip to China with the game this morning. It was actually a relatively enjoyable game for 3 quarters when the people who are going to play real basketball played. We saw some goodness and some badness, I think. Both teams are a little bit sloppy. Joel Embiid looked like a monster. So I will read Mike's tweet verbatim.
This is at Watch the Boxes on Twitter, where you can find me and all my really good tweets.
Okay, so there's kind of 3 parts to this tweet, 2 of which I'm going to agree with completely. Actually, there's 4 parts to it, one of which is not important, but I'll agree with it too. So Embiid making a huge case to be taken before the turn. Now, I'm not sure what that means. Because before the turn, is that like
that means
number 10?
Pick 12 and above. And the standard 12 team league.
And in a standard draft, that might be fair, right? We talked about that a lot, that the smaller your league, the better Joel Embiid is. Now, before the turn, I might challenge you on that a little bit, but that's semantics, right? A lot of those guys are real close in that area. I'd personally rather have guys like Damian Lillard, Paul George, but to each their own on that one, okay? I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Beautiful Bob Covington is still underrated. Yeah, well, we both know we're going to agree on that.
Beautiful Bob's always underrated.
Part number 4, I'll read right now, and I have nothing to say about it. Been some interesting rotations out there.
Yep.
I think that's the story of preseason basketball.
That's what we got.
Now, number 3 is where it gets interesting. Doncic is probably correctly rated. Triple J and Wendell Carter Jr. might be better than Doncic overall fantasy. Now, that's the part I'm not going to back you on.
Standing right by it.
Because, and here's why, okay? So, how many rebounds a game is a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. really going to get?
In his career?
Well, I assume you meant this year.
And that is probably where I'm going to have to backtrack you just a little bit. If I'm taking one of these guys this season, it's going to be Luka Doncic. If I'm in a dynasty league, if I'm in a keeper league, I think you look at those centers like Triple J and Wendell Carter Jr., and the fact that they can hit threes and get blocks makes them more valuable than someone like Doncic, who I feel is going to be very, very good, probably a top 50 player, but probably has a ceiling due to the fact he's not going to get those counting stats and the steals and blocks that will be as relevant as Triple J's or Wendell Carter Jr.'s.
So here's the point I want to make. I think you're underselling the value of an assist. Okay? We look around the NBA, and we talk about this all the time, right? Like, a lot of point guards are only getting like 5 assists a game now. Okay? And rebounds are a little bit down too. It has to do a lot with people playing less minutes, right? Like, there's not too many guys running out there 35, 36, 37 minutes, barring the Tom Thibodeau squad. Okay? But if a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr., okay, even in 32 minutes, probably is only going to get you like 7, 8 rebounds a game. Okay? If Doncic can get you 6 assists, I'd argue that 6 assists is more valuable than 7 or 8 rebounds. Also, I think the interesting thing and something that's being undersold about Doncic so far is he's basically at points with the bench unit. Now, granted, they don't have some of their better big men, right? Harrison Barnes has been out. DeAndre Jordan didn't make the trip to China. They've been kind of playing him as the stand in the paint and help defense around the rim. Like, I think Doncic, especially if you can play him at a guard spot, is probably going to be pretty safe for like half a block a game.
Okay. I mean, yeah, he's a big dude. He's got reach.
And he plays the passing lanes good with his good IQ. So he's probably going to get you pretty close to a steal a game. Maybe even a little bit more than that. And especially in his career, right? Like, he's probably going to get a little better. Like, I could see him being like 1.2 steals at some point in his career and like 0.7 blocks, just because he's just smart and he's crafty, and they're playing him mostly against the other team's power forward. Like, if you watch the game, he guarded Dario Saric in the first game against Philly almost the entire time. And then today, Mike Muscala played and Dario Saric sat out, and he was guarding Mike Muscala almost the entire time. Now, obviously, there's switches on pick and rolls and things like that. So, I mean, it's not a full 100% of the time. But mostly when they get their option, right, the Mavericks are going to put him at power forward. So I think the thing we're missing on Doncic is the defensive stats are going to be better than everyone thinks, even if he's, quote, not a good defender, right? That's what you always hear. Oh, he's not a good defender. He's not a good defender.
I think he's a very decent defender for his size, his position. There was a lot of nonsense about Ben Simmons being able to stay in front of him for one possession. I'm like, man, if that's your oh my God, I'm falling out of my seat Philly moment where Ben Simmons, who's bigger than Doncic, stays in front of him for one possession on a very good defensive possession. Like, I hope you watch more basketball so you can see some like way cooler stuff that happens during the games.
Well, and I've been touting this about those 2 games to Mavericks fans too. There's not a much better defensive tandem to guard a wing player like Doncic than Robert Covington and Ben Simmons.
Oh yeah, Doncic is going to be great. Doncic is going to be really good.
And that's what I've been saying to them is, like, you have 2 of the absolute best perimeter defenders in the NBA that he's faced in the last 2 games. Like, the absolute best. Like, Robert Covington was all first team defense last year.
Absolutely. He's a fantastic defender.
And so, I mean, I guess my point is this happens to a lot of people, right? It's the theory of that thing looks shiny, right? And, oh, it's only 19, blah, blah, blah. Like, those other guys look good, right? And they look a lot more athletic, and they're huge, and they can do things that a lot of big men can't do. I guess my point would be, don't undersell the fact that Doncic is already really good and the same age.
That is certainly fair. So yeah, I'm gonna have to go with long-term dynasty-wise. I think I'm gonna lean Triple J for sure over Doncic, just because I just think Triple J is going to be that good. But Tyler, you are 100% correct. Doncic is going to be great this year.
I'm also surprised you said that, because I'm even more surprised you said that, because I don't think Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to be a great field goal or free throw shooter.
Oh, I just disagree.
I think Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't shoot above 80% on free throws at any point in his career, which, I mean, for a big man, I guess, like, relatively speaking, that's fairly good, right? If he's like around 75%, but I don't think he's a standout in that category. Whereas I think Doncic can shoot like in the like 82 to 84% range too. So like when you start adding up categories, right? Like I don't really see, other than obviously he's going to rebound more, but Doncic is going to grab you like 5-6 rebounds a game.
Oh yeah,
He's just a big guy
going to be
playing
good
down low.
He's going to definitely be good all around for sure.
For those two guys to be better than Doncic, here's what you have to hope for, I think, Michael. You have to hope for they both hit like 2 3-pointers a game, which I don't know, maybe.
I think
and you have to hope that they both
on track.
And you have to hope that they both block like 2 shots a game.
Okay, certainly could happen.
Because neither one of them is going to be a great assist big man. I don't think.
I think Wendell Carter Jr. A little frisky, I think, with the passing. Jaren Jackson, I don't know.
But like 2 assists a game, maybe 2.5. Like I don't see him at like the Marc Gasol like 4.5, 5 level. You know what I mean?
He's not going to be like vintage Joakim Noah now.
So that alone right there is a huge Luka Doncic advantage.
Well, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree, Tyler, but it has been a pretty exciting preseason, and we're going to do some more. We're going to make some adjustments, as that's what everybody should be treating the preseason as. Is it kind of an adjustment period to get your bearings, see what's going on, look at the rotations, see how guys are performing. I don't take preseason too seriously. Probably a tweak here or there in my rankings and my overall standings. Maybe I want to target a guy a little bit more than I thought earlier, and we're probably gonna get into that in a future episode.
I do want to say one thing just for today about the preseason, and then I'm excited to talk about that more. Obviously, watch the injuries over the next couple days, because now is the time we start to see, was this a preseason injury, meaning like this guy's a veteran and he really just didn't want to play? Or is this guy legitimately hurt, right? We thought Kawhi Leonard had one of those preseason injuries last year where like he was a veteran and he just didn't want to play. And then right about this time last year, we realized, oh crap, he's not practicing still. This is actually a real thing.
Starting to get a little concerned about Gary Harris in that same fashion.
Right, and Gary Harris played against the Lakers, right, in the last preseason game, which surprised me a little bit. That was good to see. There's a lot of guys, right? Dwight Howard reportedly had a setback. I mean, I don't want to get into all of it today, but some of these injuries are turning real really fast. And then obviously we had the DeJounte Murray thing, which was just terrible.
Oh, yeah, that is horrible. We will talk about that very soon. Today, we are continuing our Who Do I Draft series. Very popular, hot on the streets, hot on the internet. And we will be drafting the one, the only Karl Anthony Towns, Cat Daddy, with our number 4 overall pick. And just to remind everybody, what we do with Who Do I Draft is that we take the top players, the guys in the first round, and we do a 12-team snake draft based on 9-cat head-to-head. And we go out to Yahoo, look at the ADPs, see who's available in the second, third, fourth round for where the first round guys are going, and try to build a team out of that. Now, we're focused on head-to-head, so we will talk about Roto, we will talk about auction drafts just a little bit, but we're mostly focused on snake, head-to-head. And, you know, Cat Daddy is going to be our first pick, Tyler. Pretty exciting.
It's always exciting, right? And he's another one of these guys who's just a fantastic across-the-board contributor, right? Amazing rebounds, great field goal percentage, some pretty damn elite points, right? Good free throws, and then still good in assists, steals, and three-pointers, right? Not elite, but still good. Just a great guy to own in the first round. And a guy that, you know, at 4, he's really hard to pass up. I mean, even at 3, he's difficult. People picking Giannis over him. I'm more on the Karl Anthony Towns bandwagon, but maybe that's a different story for a different time.
Yeah, Karl Anthony Towns, especially like if you're looking at a Roto league, ultra efficient, one of the best offensive players just in the league, period. Defense, a little questionable, but Karl Anthony Towns as a center, incredibly versatile, and is going to be getting hopefully a little bit of bump in a workload with Jimmy Butler leaving the Minnesota Timberwolves. That I think that does boost his value just a tad. At earlier, I guess, before the Jimmy Butler ordeal, Cat I was looking at pretty solidly in the middle of this round. And now, seeing him at 4 is actually, I think you just can't let him go past 4 at that point.
Yeah, I mean, with the Thibodeau thing too, right? You just feel really good about him being one of the top 5 guys in minutes per game, right?
Yep.
So,
play a lot.
And we talk about that, right? Maybe that's sometimes the most important stat is, right? If we're talking about all against these other elite guys and he's going to get 2 or 3 extra minutes, and even those guys, I mean, that's a boost to his value. And then we talked about just the great across the board stat line that's very hard to pass up.
Yeah, if he's sitting there at 4 in our listener league, I am not letting him get past 4. And there is actually still room in our listener leagues out there. So if you're interested in that, go check out patreon.com/watching the boxes. We got exclusive content out there. Tyler just put his sleepers up there. I got my roto ranked tiers up there. Now I want to give a big shout out to our new Patreon, Lewis. Respect to you, Lewis. You didn't leave a last name, so I'm not going to blast that out over the podcast airwaves. But you are going to be in one of our listener leagues. There is still a few more spots out there. So, listeners, if you are interested in joining one of those leagues, check out patreon.com/watching the boxes. So, Tyler, we are coming around in our 12-team snake draft. We got Cat Daddy with our 4th pick, and we are picking at 21. So we already got our center. Centers are hard to come by. Kind of nice to get a center in the first round, getting one of those guys. At 21, we are looking at an interesting crop of dudes. Donovan Mitchell, Bradley Beal, Drew Holiday, John Wall, Jimmy Butler, one of your favorites. Devin Booker's out there, high scoring. Devin Booker, you got your Drummonds and Rudy Gobert's, your Klay Thompsons and Chris Middleton's. You're missing out on kind of those elite second-tier players of Paul George, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, but you're still getting a taste of some of that second-tier, early third-tier talent. So an ultra-efficient guy like Cat, whose three-pointers are, okay, which is crazy to say your center's three-pointers are only okay at 1.5. That's actually really, really good. Your assists are meh. Your steals are meh. So you still could really go any direction in this case. And what are you feeling here with starting with Cat Daddy with your first pick?
So, I mean, I'm still looking kind of best player available at this spot. I just think at this point it's hard to pass up, some of these really good names, right? The Jimmy Butlers and the John Walls. John Wall and maybe to an extent Devin Booker, right? Like they're both going to hurt your field goal percentage, but they're also pretty big scorers. You know what I mean? Devin Booker has a shot to take a leap and assist, and John Wall's already an elite assist guy, so you could build that category kind of right back up there if you take one of those guys. For me, the guy that you can't really look past is Jimmy Butler. I just think he has such a good across-the-board stat line at this pick if he's still available. I mean, how do you say no, especially when you already have another really good across-the-board guy? You know what I mean? Like, put those two together as your center and your small forward, and you are building a really good team that can go in almost any direction from that point forward.
Yeah, Cat Daddy here, really good scorer. You got your rebounds way up there. Jimmy Butler, like you're saying, compliments him because he compliments him in everything. So you're not sitting elite in too much here. Your points are great, obviously. Your steals are very good, but you're not kind of going in. You're keeping yourself open for that third, fourth round, and we've seen this as we continue to do this series. You're finding these point guards in the third, fourth round. You're even finding point guards in the fifth and sixth round. There's a lot of good point guards out there. It's the centers and the wings that are getting harder and harder to come by as the draft goes on. So kind of locking up a pretty much an elite wing. And we talk about this, we're not really too worried about Jimmy Butler. It's playing time wherever he goes. He's going to be an integral part of that offense if he ends up in Miami or wherever he ends up. I could see trying to go the John Wall route and get all those assists back. I could see going the Booker route and trying to get those threes back. But I'd say if you go Jimmy Butler, you're still looking at a little bit of a doubt. Your percentages are good, so you're still focused on that, but you're still looking at a downside on your 3-pointers. Your assists are still a little low. Your blocks are fine, but you get a pick at pick 28. Like you get a pick right away.
Well, and so here's the way I look at this from this point on. If you pick Jimmy Butler, you're elite in steals in the sense that you're getting one from your center, which there's a few centers, right, that other guys are going to be starting that don't even get one.
Yeah, some of those going to get 0.
Right, and you got Jimmy Butler, who's going to get you pretty damn near 2. So you're pretty elite in that category for the 2 positions you have. Right, you kind of got to look at it like, what positions do I have, right?
You can't be like, oh, I have no assists. I have a center. Yeah, well, yeah, you have a center. You don't have any assists. That's why we always say, don't just punt assists because you drafted a center in the first round. Your center is not going to be good at assists for the most part.
Right, and you're very elite at free throw percentage at this point, right? You got two positive guys at 2 positions where they're not always positive guys, right? Like, there's lots of centers we could have picked Andre Drummond or Dwight Howard and been right in that punt territory where we got a center who's a real good free throw shooter. And then, obviously, we got a buttload of points. So I'm feeling pretty strong about both of those categories, or all 3 of those categories, as our kind of elite. And then we can pivot in a lot of different directions. I would say our rebounds are still pretty elite, right? I mean, Jimmy Butler's 5.5 for a small forward. It's pretty good.
Our rebounds are good. And I would actually, like you said, the 3-pointers made – are perfectly fine at this point because your center's getting a 1.5. So it's basically like you're getting 3 3-pointers from your wing and none from your center.
Right. And so, we're kind of right back up here again at that next pick. And
pick 28. So, maybe Rudy Gobert goes off the board, Devin Booker goes off the board, John Wall goes off the board. You're kind of your main guys go off the board, but you still got K-Love, Klay Thompson's still out there, and one of our favorites, Chris Middleton, is still sitting out there. LaMarcus Aldridge is a good percentage big. It would be out there as well. Marcus Gasol, Clint Capella. Who you like in this position? I guess Eric Bledsoe's down there. We like to look at Eric Bledsoe in this position, but I feel like I'm kind of like liking Klay Thompson a little bit if you're worried about your threes, and he's a very efficient player as well, but who are you leaning towards, Tyler, at 28?
So, I mean, obviously, Klay Thompson is available here. Now, that might be a little bit high for Klay Thompson because he doesn't provide you a ton of ancillary stats. I think everyone knows I'm a big Klay Thompson fan, and I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NBA, right? Like, I think
efficient, and he's
easily
good scorer.
Imagine him on another team, though, man. He could be like, I think he's easily a top 20 player in the NBA. Well, I'm probably going to go Middleton here, right? If I'm picking, I just feel like Middleton gives you some more steals. He gives you another wing guy, another shooting guard, small forward type that you can put in there. He's going to give you good assists at that position. He's going to give you pretty decent rebounds. He's going to give you 20 points. He's going to shoot you 2 3-pointers. So I don't feel like I'm that bad in that category. You know what I mean? Like, I get 2 more 3-pointers there. I'm going to get another guy who's pretty elite in free throw percentage. So I'm feeling really good about that category. And I think that I know that there's point guards going to be available. There's going to be some other guys I can snag that I like a little bit later on.
Well, your steals are way up at this point. If you go Middleton, your free throws will be way up if you go Middleton. I'd say your blocks, assists are still, they're not punting, but they're also not very great. But your rebounds are good, and your 3-pointers are probably back up to, or definitely actually said they're definitely back up. Even though you don't have one of those super elite Kevin Love types or Klay Thompsons, you do have enough across the board to compete with someone who went, let's say Klay Thompson, but they also got Andre Drummond.
Right, or Gobert, you know what I mean? Like, some of those guys was 0 here, right? I got 1.5, 1.5, and 2. Whereas, you know what I mean? Like, if they've got a guy with 3, but they got a guy with 0, and then they got a guy with 2, we're at the same spot.
Yeah, you're right there. So you're in the mix when it comes to 3-pointers. But right. I would say it's your assists and blocks that are probably your lowest categories at this point.
And so at this point, I'm probably going to switch a little bit more to punting, probably field goal percentage and blocks, and I'm probably going to try to boost those assists and three-pointers a little bit. I feel like I'm already really good in the steals, points, right? So I'm still going to be after those. But if I go for like a lot of point guard types now or guys who are good free throw shooters, I feel like I'm going to be one of the elite guys in that category. I got a shot to boost up my threes and assists to be really good in those points. And then obviously I think I'm going to be fine in rebounds because I got 10 from Jimmy Butler and Chris Middleton combined, and I got 12 from Karl Anthony Towns, right? So
yeah,
I feel like I'm pretty strong there. Even if I go for a bunch of guards, like I'm not going to be absolutely last in that category. I'm going to still be in the middle of the pack somewhere.
Yeah, I'd say you're still pretty solid. You could really go in a lot of different directions here. And in round 4 at pick 45, we're going to be going pick 45 and then pick 52 in rounds 4 and 5. Quite a few of those third-tier guys off the board. Your ultra-efficient LaMarcus Aldridge's, your Eric Bledsoe, your high-upside guys like Miles Turner and Aaron Gordon, all off the board. But, Al Horford is still available. Gary Harris, Mike Conley, possibly an underrated, when healthy, definitely underrated at pick. His ADP is basically pick 50. So I think that's pretty low for Mike Conley. Gordon Hayward is available down here as well. Robert Covington, Lou Williams, Vujovic, your boy Ricky Rubio's sneaking around down there. What direction should we go here, Tyler?
Yeah, so we got a lot of options, right? We could go with an old tried and true favorite in a guy like Gary Harris to boost up kind of those three-pointers. And he's another guy, right, that maybe we start caring about both percentages if we pick him because obviously he's another guy who's a real good field goal shooter. I feel like we're pretty solid on the wings, though. So I might pivot away from that just a little bit. So if Al Horford has power forward eligibility, which we found out he doesn't in ESPN, which I'd like to say this, okay? He started about 60 games last year next to Aaron Baines, but somehow ESPN gave them both only center eligibility. So apparently the Boston Celtics are the only team in the league that can start 2 centers and no power forward.
Yeah, I'd like to make a PSA right now to all of our listeners. Even if you don't play on ESPN, do me a favor. Go to their feedback, go to their support site, and just every single day say, make these players have better positions. Just find one player and go, Al Horford should have a forward eligibility. And send it every day until after the season starts. Just do that for me. I'd really, really appreciate it. We're going to get this straight.
To me, right, I was just confused by it in my draft because at the end it said I have no power forward, and you were in this draft, Mike, and I was like, didn't I draft? I drafted Luka Doncic, who's a power forward. I drafted Al Horford. Like I drafted so many guys who I thought were power forwards.
Good luck getting those. Getting Doncic as a power forward.
You know what I mean? And I mean, I guess it's a lot of the nebulous of what position does anyone play anymore. Like I get it, but I don't understand how Al Horford is not a power forward when he starts next to Aaron Baines. Just I don't understand. That's a different story for a different time, I guess. So back to where we were. So you mentioned Mike Conley. Now
that's who I'm looking at here, since he's kind of one of those last could-be semi-elite point guards.
And we've seen him, right, be the top 30 player pretty consistently. He fits the build if we're going to punt field goals, right, because he's not a good field goal shooter, but he's pretty darn good at a lot of other stuff, right?
I don't think his field goal volume, with the guys we already have, I don't think his field goal volume kills you enough to punt it. You're just maybe just not caring too much about it as much as you were, but that boosts your assists back up. You're getting your threes boosted up into a kind of a top tier level, and you're still just like beating everybody at points. Your top 5 or 4 guys, possibly even 5 guys, could all be hitting 17 points or greater.
Right, so that's obviously pretty enticing. That becomes a bit of a risk reward pick, right? Because we've seen Conley play 13 games last year. So you got to have some risk tolerance because obviously he's a year older now, and they gave him the fat contract, so it's not like he's got to push through an injury to prove he's worth a lot of money. But it's an option and a good one. Another guy you could go for would be Gordon Hayward in this range, guy we talk about a lot. I actually kind of am a fan of Mike Conley here, though.
Yeah, I think if you don't want to completely ignore your assists, which right now, I think we have like 2 good assist wings where you're not completely punting that category. Now, if you want to just completely punt that category, go right ahead here and go with Al Horford, or even maybe even look at.
Well, I think for the assists are what makes Al Horford more enticing, right? Like Al Horford got like 4.7 assists a game last year. So if you really wanted, and that's why I said if he's forward eligibility, if he has it, right? So if this is not an ESPN league and the league makes sense and he has forward eligibility, I would love to pick Al Horford here. But if he doesn't have forward eligibility, I'm going to have to pick another power forward now because I already have a center. And most leagues, right, it's the 5 starting spots and then guard, forward, and then 3 utilities. So he becomes a utility guy. Whereas in this particular build, I don't really want a big guy as my utility guy. I want another guard because that's what his stats I'm really trying to get good at. So it would a lot depend on his eligibility for me to pick him. I'm a big proponent. I would take Al Horford over Mike Conley.
Well, you know what?
7 days a week, if you can tell me he's got forward eligibility, but he's got to have that power forward eligibility.
You know what? I'm pulling the strings at ESPN. Horford is going to have forward eligibility, and
he's got it on Yahoo and Fantrax, right? So if you play on those leagues, like there's a distinction there that it's worth talking about.
So we're going to take Horford at pick, because we haven't taken Horford or Conley in any of our other ones. So I just kind of think it's interesting where we can grab one of these guys, and you like Horford. And you're kind of selling me on him because of the assist from a big. You're not going to get that later in the draft, and I think you can still find the Connolly stats later in the draft.
And Horford is a decent free throw shooter at like 78% on very low volume, right? So even if he has a down year where he drops to like 72, 73%, it's like 1.7 attempts a game. So that really ain't hurting us at all, especially with the free throw shooters we already have.
Yeah, and his usage is probably going to go a little down this year with that Celtics team being healthy, but that could actually, in turn, boost his assists a little bit when he's getting the guys the ball. Maybe he scores a little less.
Here's the other thing, too. He could get more rebounds this year, right? Because he's going to be primarily the starting center with them starting Tatum, Hayward, Irving. You know what I mean? Like he's going to play center this year, whereas he started. Yeah. I mean, I mentioned he started next to Baines most of the games last year, so that could up his rebound numbers a little bit too. So I think he's definitely undersold. Right? I've done 3 actual drafts so far, and I've gotten Horford in every league past the top 50, basically. None of them, they were all auction drafts, but he went below a top 50 player, like below the value of top 50 player was going in all 3 drafts. I think people are overlooking him because, he's old and he may be the 4th or 5th option on that Celtics starting lineup. Like, Al Horford's just good, man.
I agree. And that gives you a block a game. It's we're still really not traditionally punting anything at this point, and we got a really solid big man, even though our points took a little bit of a hit with Horford there. I would probably start leaning towards perhaps ignoring assists. I think our blocks are fine, and our 3-pointers are still fine. We got 2 bigs who hit over a 3 a game. I think maybe at pick 52, I would start looking for somebody who hits threes. Maybe you're Larry Markkinen. I know he's been injured, but we don't have to get into that, so maybe we'll ignore him. But your Nico Mirotich's at pick 52. Your Robert Covington's out there at pick 52, though that would hurt our field goal percentage pretty hard. I know your boys Jeff Teague and Ricky Rubio are hanging around out there if you didn't want to ignore assists. So pick 52, who are you liking here?
Well, I mean, I think it's all the same cast of characters we talk about a lot.
We like this middle round. There's a lot of good guys out here.
Right, and there's just a lot of good names to pick. So I don't think we need to punt assists, and that's probably not the direction I would go in, just because I feel like in this general range, you can make up a lot of assists real fast, right? We talk about it. There's Chris Dunn, there's Ricky Rubio, there's Jeff Teague. There's just a lot of point guards and a lot of guys who I think are probably top 50 players that are going outside the top 50. So that makes that interesting. And then you also, this general range, you have kind of two groupings. To me anyways, you've got the grouping of the overrated big men, in my opinion now, right? The Jared Allens, the John Collins, the sleeper big men.
Yeah, who are going at literally their max value.
Right. And then you have the point guards. Okay. And then you have this group of kind of wing players like Taurean Prince, Josh Richardson, Lou Williams, maybe if you want to consider him kind of, he's not real. Robert Covington.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you have those kind of names. So it all really depends on which way you want to go. And then you have kind of a couple outliers in there, and like DeAndre Ayton and Nikola Vucevic, who are two guys I think that are pretty fairly valued. I think we've seen that DeAndre Ayton, it looks like he's just going to be good, right?
He's like, pretty good. It's going to be pretty good. You're going to probably take him at his max peak, but maybe that's worth it.
Well, and here's the other thing too, right? Like just because the Suns aren't good, or he may not be great for real life basketball. Like I don't know how great of a defender he's going to be, right? Like he might not win the Suns a lot of games, but I think he's going to get stats. All right, I'm back.
That's all right. I'll pick it up. So yeah, and defense intensity is not one of the stats we track here. So it's who gives a crap if the Suns lose a game. DeAndre, as long as they're feeding DeAndre the ball, I'm intrigued now. I think when we started these kind of like looking at the rookies, we weren't really sure what his role would be. We thought he would play a lot. We thought he was probably a top 75 player, but it looks like if he's going to play this much and he's going to be that important in the offense, top 50 might not be out of the question.
Right, and he's not a great fit for this build, obviously, because he's going to be a relative punt free throw guy, right? Like I think he's going to probably shoot around 68 to 70%, maybe as high as like 72. Which and it's going to probably be on relatively big volume because he's a big man who they're going to foul, especially if he's not shooting well on any given night. So obviously he's not really great for this build. So for me, in this general area, I'm kind of looking. I think we need a little bit more points, right? If we go Horford, we need someone who's going to score.
Yeah, we need to get back up in those points. So I think Rubio might be out.
And I think the guys like Covington and those guys, like I just don't think they're going
to probably out. We got Middleton, we got Butler. We don't need a Covington.
That's what I mean. And I don't think those guys are going to score enough. So I'm looking for 15 points a game at least.
Okay.
So a real enticing guy at this point becomes Lou Williams. You got to feel like he's going to score. He's going to shoot good free throws. He's going to hit 2 or 3 3-pointers. He's going to be okay in assists, like not great.
Yeah, we're not at this point. We're pretty much ignoring assists. I think if we go Lou Williams, but we're still probably going to compete with all the. We're probably going to beat every single person who tried to punt assists, which probably is like at least 3 to 4 people in the league. You're going to beat them every time.
Well, and two, we're going to beat some of the middling teams who went 2 or 3 point guards and 2 or 3 big men, and then got wings who get you like 1 assist a game. You know what I mean? Like we're going to beat the teams with the Hassan Whiteside and the Jonas Valanciunas who are getting you like absolutely 0 assists. And then they have wing players who are getting them like Evan Fournier, who's getting them like 2.5, right? Like we're better than those teams still because we've got a couple guys getting 5 and a couple guys getting 2.5. And
I think a lot of people playing head to head, they do forget that like every week matters and every team isn't built the same. Because you do see people who are just like, I'm going to beat everybody in 4 categories, and then I'll probably win 5 and 6. And it's like, well, I hope so, But if someone else wanted to do the exact same thing, maybe you're second best in rebounds, maybe you're third best in rebounds, and you're
Right.
always last in free throw in assists. And it's like, well, you're always losing a category is much easier to do than always winning a category.
Right. And so then the pivot, right? So we talk about there's always pivot points in a draft. The pivot would be if you knew you could get done with your next pick, you go Teague and Dunn, right? Something we've done a lot. And then you're kind of right back somewhat near the top in assists, I think. Right? You're in the top. If it's a 12-team league, you're probably in the top 4.
You're probably in the
top 5.
top. You're probably in the top half. I would say. Something I would be semi interested in because our next two picks are at 69 and 76. I might go Nico Mirotic here and just bump my threes up to something that's competing. My points are now super great. My rebounds are now super great too. So I got those. So I'm kind of getting 3 really good stats from him. Plus, your free throws will be also still very, very good. Kind of gives you an extra big man to throw in there. So I'd look his way.
Well, and we still need a forward, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
most leagues, right? We're still needing a forward, someone to fill in that forward spot, unless we're going to play Butler and Chris Middleton both as forwards. Which, I mean, one of them's got to be a shooting guard, right? We got to have a shooting guard at some point. Yeah, I'm good with Mirotic. I like Mirotic. I think Mirotic is a little bit underrated, like always, and I think that's a perfectly fine pick too.
Yeah, I mean, these cast of characters here that Giannis, I think, with our Drummond build was the exception to the rule. And in Steph Curry, we had a lot of small guys early. So if you go back and listen to those, we did go in a little bit of a different direction in these last rounds than usual. But I think we're always kind of looking at Nico, Chris Dunn, Jeff Teague, even Edith. We've looked at Edith Cantor a few times. Those kind of just seem to those guys kind of stand out because they do something elite. So I think if we go Nico Dunn here, that would be perfectly fine. Nico Doncic, if I don't think you're going to get Doncic at 76, but maybe if you're in a Yahoo league, you will, because that's what it's saying here that he's going to pick 82. So that's way too low.
And Doncic in the right build has point guard only eligibility on Yahoo.
That's true.
If you're building more of a big man type build, which we're not super today, but if you were, Doncic could get real interesting in that type of build because he's a point guard that you can fit in. That's going to get you some good rebounds and going to get you some blocks and some things we talked about earlier that some other point guards just aren't going to do.
Yeah, and I think that's actually kind of why I like him if you can get him at 76, which I don't think you're going to be able to, because we have Butler and Middleton and Horford. Those are all good rebounding forward centers, plus Cat's elite rebounds, and then you throw Nico in there as well. That's a ton of rebounds to throw at some teams, and everybody's shooting threes there too.
Our next pick is what number?
76.
76. No, I don't think so, man.
I don't think you're going to get Doncic 76, but I would like him in this build. I think Chris Dunn is probably acceptable here if you think you can get him. But let's just go a different person. What about D'Angelo Russell here as your point guard? Probably hurts your field goal, but maybe not enough. Maybe we got enough field goal where we can absorb a D'Angelo Russell. You get those points and assists that you might need from a point guard, plus some rebounds.
Yeah, I mean, man, Russell's just a tough guy for me to peg because I think we've seen him be hurt and be hurt and be hurt and be hurt. This is a range where I don't love him. I don't hate him. Obviously at like 88 where he's going, right? He's an average pick of 88. Like I'm fine with that. But give me Chris Dunn, give me Luka Doncic in this general range. Give me some other guys, right? Like if I want threes, give me JJ Redick, and he's gonna score.
By the way, everyone's way down on JJ this year, and he's gonna be just as good as he always is.
So did you watch the first game when they played the Mavs played the Sixers? Did you find it hilarious when they were like, "Oh, the crowd's going crazy for Redick. Every time he touches the ball, they're loving his shooting." Did you hear this? Because I was dying laughing.
Yeah, I didn't understand it.
Well, you don't know the story, right? Do you know the story?
No, I don't. No, I don't know the story.
JJ Redick has a podcast himself, and
yes,
on his podcast, he said a racially insensitive term towards Asian people, so they were booing him every time he touched the ball. And the announcers just kept going over how they were cheering him and they were loving his shooting and, oh, they're going crazy for him.
I did not know that. That's news to me.
Yeah, so you could look up that JJ Redick story about the thing that he said and why they booed him. It was kind of somewhat widely reported this week with the game. But yeah, and so like the announcers just kept hitting this. They just kept going over it and over it and over it. And it's like, dude, you guys have no clue what you're talking about.
No, it's one of those things where you're going to continue to see the disconnect between those old heads, the old announcers, the guys who work on TV, and basically NBA Twitter. NBA Twitter is the NBA now. You don't even need these announcers. I mean, hell, Nate Duncan, he does a Twitter live show for these games. So like, there isn't a huge need to have these just kind of like boring, in the middle, out of touch color guys. And you're also starting to see a lot of those guys fade away for new talent. But we'll see where the future of the NBA. I think Twitter and NBA have been working a lot together. I've already seen some interesting ads that they had put together. You can get alerts about the games. So I think NBA has been the most forward thinking sport by far, just out of any of the sports.
I'm with you there. So I will mention a guy that I am pretty interested in this pick in the non-Chris Dunn division. And it's a guy I think who's just getting a little bit undersold this year. And I think people are making a lot more of the injury he had. They're not making enough of the injury he had last year. And that's Nick Batum. Batum, if you remember, missed some games there, right, with an elbow injury, I believe. And when he came back, he ramped up kind of slow. And he just never super got his shooting down. We saw 2 years in a row in Charlotte where he averaged 15 points a game. And obviously some other factors, including a new teammate who's now gone, affected that last year. But think about adding Batum to this build, right? A guy who'd get you like 5.5, 6 assists. He's going to be relatively around half a block, going to give you a steal, going to give you like, I think probably 14 or 15 points a game, going to be good in free throws, which we care about. Sure, he's not a good field goal guy, but like give me Nick Batum over D'Angelo Russell any day. I feel like Batum's going to play 70 games at least. I don't know about D'Angelo Russell. And sure,
Nick Batum's time on the court has been hit or miss as well.
He has played over 70 games in every season except for last year of the last seasons. Okay. So he's played, I'll read the numbers if you want, 73, 82, 71, 70, 77, and last year 64. But if you remember last year, he had that one elbow injury, missed like, I forget, 4 weeks. It might have even been like 6 or 8 weeks because I think it happened during the preseason. And then he was healthy pretty much the whole time once he came back. I think he gets a knock for not being that healthy.
Yeah, those guys who those guys who are injured and they come back, people forget about them. Always happens every single year. This is a pretty good build. It's actually really solid across the board. You're probably going to win some of those categories that a majority of the people are punting while still competing in the categories that we were really hitting on, which are points, our rebounds, our three-pointers are really good. Our free throw percentage is really good. We went after taking Cat with our 4th pick. We went Butler, Middleton in the 2nd and 3rd rounds. So we have basically the best across the board wings in the game. And then we went Horford, a really good, efficient center who doesn't really hurt you too much on free throws from that position while getting you assists. And we went back with some scoring with Lou Williams, a guy we don't often pick in these situations, but felt right in round 5. Going to get that scoring back, and we're not really looking too hard at the assists at that point, but we do got some really good threes. And since we were looking for some more threes, we want to be kind of elite in that. We went Niko Mirotic, obviously one of my favorite guys on the court. Good 3-pointers, good rebounding, so bumping our rebounding back up. And then with our last pick at the 76th pick, in the 7th round. We kind of decided you can go in a lot of different ways here. JJ for threes, Batum for across the board guys. Done if you want to get those steals and bump your assists back up. A lot of choices there at pick 7. All in all, another really good build that fits the mold that we consistently preach here, which is be elite in at least 3 or 4 categories, but try to compete in most categories. Not all the categories. You can ignore 1 or 2, but punting hard and then punting hard like more than 2 categories really could put you in a hole.
Yeah, and some guys will say, "Oh, well, I'm going to beat you in 5 categories or whatever." But punting hard and still winning all 5 of those categories gets to be difficult, and it gets to be even more difficult when one of your big guys gets injured. Whereas if you have kind of an across the board team and one of your big guns gets injured, right? Let's say it's Towns or Butler, like 2 of the guys we picked today. Maybe there's somebody on the waiver wire who steps up and is giving you production in a category that you were punting before, but he's the best player on the waiver wire. Well, he's not really helping you if you're in one of those hard punt builds. But if you're in a build like we like to build, then he's kind of evening out your stat line with the absence of Jimmy Butler as opposed to not really helping you at all. And then you're picking an inferior player off the waiver wire because he's the only one who fits your bill.
Yeah, that's completely true. You can actually stream in order to catch up in some of the categories that you're just okay in. And also, if 3 or 4 dudes are all punting in the same direction you are, you're not going to be elite in rebounds if everybody's trying to be elite in rebounds. It's just not going to happen. Everybody can't be the number 1 guy in rebounds.
So the worst pre-draft strategy in the world to me is going in there saying, I am going to punt X, Y, and Z categories, or even just X and Y categories. Like, I think that's just a huge mistake, because what if 5 other guys in the league? What if 5 of the other guys in the league say they're all punting assists too, and you're punting assists? So no one's gonna pick a point guard ever?
Yeah, you need to make a run on those point guards in rounds. If Kyrie Irving is hanging around in the bottom of the 4th round, you're an idiot for not taking him.
Yeah, even in the 3rd round, high 3rd round, mid 3rd round, like Kyrie Irving has potential to be one of the. I mean, like, it was not that long ago we saw Kyrie Irving getting picked at the turn, right? Like, if Kyrie Irving's available in the 3rd round, I'm going to be pretty damn interested.
So will I. That was a good build, Tyler. We got a few more of these Who Do I drafts left. If you guys like the show, please rate, review us online, or leave us feedback. You can find me on Twitter at Watch the Boxes. You can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts. That is WATTS. Guys, we always take your questions. If you got feedback for the show, topics you wanted to hit on, maybe you want us to talk about auctions more, dynasty drafts more, whatever it may be, hit us up. We'll provide it. We're doing this for you guys, all you listeners out there. And if you're looking for exclusive content, or you want to join one of those drafts for the listeners, go check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. We appreciate you all out there, and we'll catch you next time. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com. #basketball.com has the best fantasy basketball tools out there, easily the best scheduler, drafts, tools that are going to help your draft, tools that are going to help you during the season, tools that will help you trade, and tools that will allow you to do your own customized projection based on the one and only great Mark Roberts' projections. #basketball.com. Go check them out. I'm your host, Mike Catron, and joining me as always is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
So I would like to say something about those tools today. Michael, are you okay with that?
Yeah, of course. We got to pimp our sponsor.
So I get these questions relatively frequently about I was looking at Mark's rankings or Basketball Monster or wherever you're getting your rankings. I don't know. Johnny Fredrickson, who has his own website, and they say, I'm looking at his projections, and he's got this guy for 6 assists, but I think he's going to get 7. That's the beauty of the hashtag basketball tools, right? You can go in there. You can make your own projections. You want to put, Kyrie Irving getting 10 assists a game, you can do it. And then you click the little rank button, you find out where that puts him in the value, right? So basically you can make all your own projections for every player if you wanted to. You can do it for just players you think are going to be better. And you can kind of see, okay, if he produces this stat line, what's his ceiling? Okay, well, if the player's ceiling is top 20 and he's going at 60, well, then maybe you do want to reach for him at 40 or 50 because you think he's going to be a top 20 player. So it can kind of help you with those situations too of like, I think everyone's underrating this guy a little bit. How much are they underrating him? You can see for yourself now.
Yeah. And, those projections online, no matter where you're getting them, if you're getting them from hashtag basketball, where Mark Roberts uses some algorithms based on historical statistics by each one of these players and the player type, it's quite an impressive projection. It should just be a starting place. You should be, if you have your own feelings, your own intuitions, your own insider information, then go in that direction. And hashtag basketball.com allows you to do that. So go check them out. And Tyler, we are almost ready to do our listener league drafts. They are like coming up in like the next day or two. And so, if any of you listeners out there,
yes, I'm excited for those.
Yeah, and so if any of you listeners out there are interested in getting in on one of those listener leagues, whether it be the Dynasty Draft, the Boring Redraft, or Weird 3-Cat League, no matter what, we even start another league. If you're like, oh, I want to do this crazy old league, all right, let's do it. Like, why not? There's a lot of directions you can go. And if you want to get into one of those listener leagues, because we only got like a day or two left, so you got to hurry. Go out to patreon.com/watchingtheboxes, just like our 2 new Patreon subscribers did. Dan, Margolin. I'm terrible with these names. You sound like a basketball player because I can't pronounce your last name. Dan, respect to you. And Mike Taylor, who has a very pronounceable name. Respect to both Dan and Mike out there. They have joined our Patreon at patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. They are going to get exclusive content leading up to the season. Tyler's sleepers are out there. Those are some good sleepers out there. You might be able to pick up on some of the sleepers just by listening to the show. But those deep sleepers that you got out there, Tyler, are excellent fodder for those big leagues.
Was the goal, right? So anybody can say, oh, this guy actually getting picked in Yahoo leagues is a deep sleeper. Like, that's baloney. Okay. So I did the work for you now. Obviously it's a couple days old now. So someone maybe is taking my advice and they're slipping on the very back end of that Yahoo list, but all my deep sleepers, you will not find them. If you look through Yahoo's ADP, you will not find their name on there. That was the goal. The goal is to find guys that nobody's looking at.
They are not being drafted. So go check that out. Patreon.com, watching the boxes. That is out there for all you subscribers. We'll be doing exclusive content throughout the season. But Tyler, this content here, I guess, is exclusive to our listeners who are listening to the podcast. So respect to them. We've been doing our Who Do I Draft series, and we have gotten down to pick number 5, who we are taking at pick number 5 anyway. Some people are out on this man. His name is Kevin Durant, the Durantula, the big lanky man, Chala, I think is his other nickname. A lot of people are sleeping on him. I don't know why they're sleeping on him. The dude is just one of the best players easily in the league. Great across the board, no matter you're doing head-to-head to roto. There's really no players who provide the skill set, the fantasy production that Kevin Durant does. And I keep hearing people saying, oh, he's probably going to sit games and he's got a bad schedule. Oh, no. And it's I just want to remind everybody he was ranked 3rd per game last year. And in totals, in 68 games, he was the 5th overall player. So stop not drafting Kevin Durant.
Yeah, and people will say, oh, he's going to sit 15 games. He missed 15 games. He missed 14 games last year, and he was the 5th overall player. So, to take Durant at 8 or 9 or 10 seems relatively foolish for those other people who passed up on him. I will say this, though. This pick, we're getting into that range where it's very frustrating for me to pick in a snake draft because I keep putting, 2 or 3 names in my queue, and I'm like, oh, I really want this guy or this guy, and then it's so long in between every pick, right? You get sniped, and you walk away from the draft feeling like, man, I could have had so much better team.
Yeah, middle of the round, I feel is incredibly hard. I know you prefer picking on the turn. So do I, pretty much. It's just easier to go, all right, I like that guy, and they both fall to you versus waiting for your next pick, the longest basically out of anybody if you're picking in the middle of the round, and hardly ever getting. It's almost like you got to ignore the draft, which is not good advice. So don't ignore the draft, because our second pick is going to be all the way at pick number 20, and all the second tier guys are gone basically at pick number 20, in my opinion anyway. And you really got to go with whoever's hanging around at pick number 3. I mean, Kevin Durant, you can go in any direction. He's a great scorer. He's very efficient. He gets good blocks for his position. Gets good rebound assists for his position. So, Tyler, at pick number 20, really, what direction do you want to go here?
Well, I mean, so it's a similar cast of characters. I think we all know who's available. We got Bradley Beal. We got Drew Holiday. We got John Wall. We got Jimmy Butler. We got Drummond. We got Devin Booker. Probably not looking any below that range for this pick. So Kevin Durant is one of the quintessential all across the board contributors, right? Like everywhere he is good to elite. So that makes your life interesting because you can do anything you want.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to go John Wall or Drew Holiday here, and just your assists are going to look great. You're going to be sitting really, really good. If you wanted to go middle of the road, like all across the board, like you're Jimmy Butler, that we love Jimmy Butler. We pick him a lot in our series because we do think he's very underrated. You could go Jimmy Butler. If anybody above these guys falls to here at pick 20, great, even better. Hell, you could go Rudy Gobert and dominate blocks.
So it's just a lot of options on how you like to build your team and what you think is going to be available later. I will make a nomination today for Mr. John Wall. I love his assists. I feel like Durant is a good assist guy for a power forward. That's probably where I'm going to play him because I think the power forward position may be one of the weakest, especially in leagues that limit those eligibilities quite a bit. They all want to make all the big men centers, but we won't get into that today. So I feel like getting some elite assists from that power forward spot from Durant and getting some good points, some good threes from Durant, and then I'm probably going to shift away a little bit maybe from field goal percentage because John Wall ain't the best at that, but that's okay. I feel like I'm pretty good in most of the rest of the categories.
Yeah, you're now basically, I'd say, pumping up the things that Kevin Durant is good, but still good at. And now you're elite in those things. Plus your scoring's really, really nice. Your free throw or your field goal is a little bit down. Don't even worry about that. I like that John Wall pick there. I could also see going Rudy Gobert there because like centers are hard to come by later in the draft. Now you got 2 big centers. You're dominating everybody in blocks. You're really, really good at rebounds, but you're going to have to basically go guard after that. So it's possible. There are a lot of good guards in the middle rounds that, like we've talked about. Your Bledsoes, your Teagues, your Rubios, those guys are available in rounds 3, 4, and 5. But I like going John Wall. You got an elite point guard. You got an elite forward. And then you come back in round 3 at pick 29, and you still got some decent players sitting around here. You got Draymond Green, CJ McCollum, Kevin Love kind of rings out to me here. Marcus Sol. Eric Bledsoe is available if you want to get a double down on them point guards. So, Tyler, with pick 29 in round 3, where are you going?
So, I think that you could go in two directions here. We know we don't love the center crop coming up, but we could still grab maybe a Marc Gasol or a Vucevic with our next pick.
I'm liking Kevin Love there. That's who I'm leaning towards. But you keep going.
Well, okay, so this is where I'm gonna kind of get here is I'm really big on Kevin Love in this pod too, and most people know that I'm not the biggest Kevin Love backer.
You're not.
But in this particular build, I think we see Love push up the points this year, right? Probably in the 19-20 range. Just who else is going to score for Cleveland?
Out of necessity.
Right. Love. What do you think about Love's 3-pointers? I think they might go down a little bit. I think Love.
Well, he's not going to be standing around on the
right,
corner waiting for LeBron to pass him the ball, you know?
And I think maybe we've talked about this on the podcast a little bit before. The Cavs don't have a lot of playmakers. They got a lot of stand around and spot up shooters, or they got a lot of guys who are me first guys like Jordan Clarkson. And so I don't know that he's going to get that many unless he's going to shoot them off the dribble 3-point attempts, which is
he'll still shoot some threes. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, but okay, so he was in like the 2.8 range, right? Like 3-pointers a game range last couple of years. I think that's probably down closer to 2. Like I just don't see that. But we're talking elite rebounds, talking okay assists, especially if we're going to play him at center. I just really like that build. I think it's going to be a really good build around points, around threes, around some good free throw percentage.
I'm with you there. I told you I'm already leaning towards him, and you're not going to get a center in this run. So, like, this might be a little early for someone like Kevin Love. It's a little early for someone like Marc Gasol, who also kind of fits in the same mold here. But those guys are going to be gone by pick 44, and that's what's a little tough about picking around 5 and 6 is that big drop between 3 and 4. That's usually when the center, that last center, decent center run happens. You still got those guys in rounds 5 and 6 that are going to be around, but none of those guys really move the needle as much as this group of centers do. So if you got to get a center here, you're going to have to reach for them. Draymond Green is a little interesting to me because our points are so good as well, and then you can kind of get that across the board production, crazy assists from your forward, and then you would have really good assists, all three of those. But if Draymond Green's not available there, I think Kevin Love's the way to go.
Well, and I'll say this about the difference between Love and Draymond Green here for me would be free throws, which I feel you're pretty good at, and Love's going to give you a decent amount more 3-pointers, which I mean, I think we could be relatively elite at that if we get a Love 3-pointers, and we're probably trending towards middle of the road if we get a guy like Draymond Green.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And like as we talked about Mark's projections, if you think Kevin Love's going to get less 3-pointers, drop those 3-pointers down those projections. Maybe you think Marc Gasol's going to get more, move him up, see who's better, and then go with the one you like the best.
Right,
it's really easy to do.
Here's the big reason that I'm never a huge Kevin Love blacker is you're not going to get a lot of steals and blocks, right? Like that's just not a Kevin Love thing. Like he's going to get you a half and less than 1 in the 2 categories. So, but in this particular build, like I feel like we're pretty good in those.
Yeah, we're already solid in both of those categories.
Right, and we got John Wall, who's right. So if you flip those two and kind of like look at, this one's the big man and this one's the small man, like you're still elite, right? Like regardless of how you want to look at it. If you flip the blocks, right, you're getting half a block from your point guard and now a block from your big man. That category is still trending to be pretty good.
That's true. Our next pick, way down the list, 4th round, pick 44. Kind of if any of those centers are left, maybe John Collins is left. Maybe DeAndre Jordan is left. Probably not if someone's doing a punt build and you're not. So DeAndre Jordan is probably off the board. But you do have Gary Harris available here. Jason Tatum is available around here. Maybe even Blake Griffin could be around here. Mike Conley, Gordon Hayward is out. Is still out here. And our boy, I think is our boy Eric Bledsoe still out here? No, I think he's already been drafted. That's too
42. He is
so
average
close.
ADP, so he is probably gone. So we're in this range where we look at the similar guys every time. It's Harris, it's Hayward. I'm not looking at John Collins here personally. Mike Conley would be fine. In a different build, probably DeAndre Jordan. I don't really want to pump my free throws at this point, though.
Yeah, you're gonna be picking at 53 next, so you will see maybe Robert Covington still left. Joe Ingles would be out there, and so there's these low points guys that could still be sitting out there. But then after that, I mean, you really got to pay attention to these picks. At 68, you're going to miss out on Ricky Rubio, Jeff Teague, any of those point guards that you might be interested in that are in that middle tier category. So I don't know if you want to start reaching down, because once you get to like pick 40 through 70, they're all kind of a mixed bag of guys. They all provide about the same amount of value. So you really want to fit it to your strategy here. Right now, we're very good at rebounds, assists. We don't care too much about a field goal percentage at this point. Our steals and blocks are fine. So it feels like we need to head in that one direction. And it might be interesting to maybe reach down and for both of these picks, which maybe, I don't know if that's good advice. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And I'd like to get someone who scores, and then I'd like to get someone after him who's like a Joe Ingles across the board, or maybe you even go like a Jeff Teague, Ricky Rubio.
I think you go Gordon Hayward with this pick.
He's kind of the last good scorer on the board.
And underrated rebounds and assists for the shooting guard, small forward type. He fits the bill with some really strong free throw. It's going to get you probably like 2 3-pointers a game, which we need. I just feel like that's a strong fit for this particular build.
He's a little boring in my opinion, but he's also very good at basically everything, and he's a good scorer. So if you don't want to have to go find your points later, then Gordon Hayward is a great get here. But if you don't mind going to find those points later, maybe you do look at your Robert Covingtons here.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I just feel like other than steals, like what is Covington giving you that, and blocks, what is Covington giving you that Hayward's not?
Fair.
You know what I mean?
Hayward's giving you a lot more points, that's for sure.
Well, and he's giving you similar rebounds, right? More assists, better percentages. Like, I just feel like Gordon Hayward, other than steals and blocks, but we don't. I mean, I don't think we don't have a huge need for those steals and blocks. No. I don't think we're great in those categories. Obviously, after picking Kevin Love, but I don't think we have a huge need with Durant and John Wall, who are both pretty good and pretty elite in both those categories.
Yeah, our blocks are probably a little bit down, but like we're fine pretty much everywhere else. Our assists are probably a little lacking at this point, even though Wall is super elite. Kevin Love is solid. KD is solid. I wouldn't say we're one of the most elite guys, but I think our rebounds are very stellar at this point. Our points are incredibly good at this point. I think I can almost feel it, Tyler. I know. At pick 53, I see the look in your eye. I see the smile on your face. I see the glint of Ricky Rubio.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it was Will Barton. That's my favorite player, Mike. Come on.
Oh, Steve Willie Barton? Yo, he's going to tear it up. He's going to be fantastic. I think I'm going to go Will Barton over Lou Williams like in every draft. Just putting it out there.
That's fair. They do somewhat similar things. It's kind of a debate on who's going to score more and hit more threes kind of thing. And
I like Will Barton's role in Denver. I like their high-powered it probably would be one of the best offenses in the entire league.
Well,
Lou Williams had a really bad second half.
Well, and we talk about this a good bit that that Denver team's not particularly deep, especially on those wings. So, yeah. I mean, Will Barton can see a hefty load of minutes himself too. So that could be good for him. Yeah. So in this general range,
you're not going to take Will Barton here. I know you, Tyler. I know who you're taking. You're taking Ricky Rubio. Just do it. It's a good fit.
So the underrated part about Rubio, right? So Mark only has him projected for 13.2 points. Once Rubio made the adjustment to the Jazz last year, he didn't obviously get the assist we thought he was going to get, but he scored like 14 points a game.
Yeah.
So I think some people give Rubio that like Covington vibe of like, oh, he's only going to score like 10 or 11 points. Like on this Jazz team, they ask him to score quite a bit. And so don't be surprised to see Rubio knock around 14 points. Still good rebounds, good assists, great steals. He's just a real good fit for this build.
I agree. I really like him actually here with the rebounds. Your assists are now real nice. Your steals are also very good. Your free throws are definitely elite, I would say, at this point, especially with KD leading the way there. Pick 68, round 6. Lonzo Ball's hanging around here. We never pick Lonzo Ball. If Jeff Teague falls here, you know how much we love Jeff Teague. He didn't fall to us, but if he does, probably be looking at him. Kyle Kuzma, Julius Randle, Harrison Barnes. If you want to go with those, if you went with a guy who didn't score a little bit earlier, here's Harrison Barnes sitting here. Harry B. Gonna probably lead the Dallas Mavericks in points. Your boy, Tyler Nicholas Batum's out here. Enes Kanter, highly underrated. I think he's gonna just Enes Kanter had like a 2020 game, and I know it's preseason. It's preseason game. It's preseason. Let's not take a big deal. But he also had a 2020 game in the real basketball league, the regular season last year.
Yeah, and he's just a perpetually kind of underrated guy. I think just he does what he does, so you gotta know what you're buying. But at the same time, like Kanter's gonna get you good points and good rebounds with good percentages in 25 minutes a game, and he's going to probably play more than that in New York. So they're even going to be better points and rebounds.
I 100% agree. And you'd probably get him a little bit later than 68, but if you really wanted those stats, there he is.
The guy to picture, Huckleberry, though.
What?
Your Huckleberry, Nikola Mirotic, is the guy to pick here.
Niko Mirotic, what? He's still available?
Yes, sir.
We've been picking Nico quite a bit. I mean, you know how much I care about Nico. I had a Nico Chia pet that I raised. It was a bust of Niko Mirotic.
You had to shave the beard off last year, though?
And his beard would grow as a cheetah pet. Once he shaved his beard, though, I can't look at him. I can't look at him right in the face. It scares me.
Is it back? It's got to be back. He's got to be growing it back.
I don't think it is. I haven't seen him yet, but I don't think it's back.
He's got to be. He's got to be.
I think he started playing better.
We got to start a hashtag, like grow the beard or something. Mirotic grows the beard.
Bring back the beard.
We got to just keep sending it to him.
Yeah, everybody out there, I want to ask you, one, keep bothering ESPN. Every listener out there, bother ESPN. Tell them to just pick a player and give whatever position that they actually should have. Just be like, why don't you have this? We might actually just start doing a weekly thing where I'm going to tweet out a guy and we're going to get that position on ESPN. I think we're going to do that.
You want to really annoy him. Take a screen grab of Basketball References, like percentage that the person's played that position. And I looked through a few of them the other day. I found some where the guy played 60, 70, 80% at a position, and ESPN gave him a completely different position as his only position in their game.
It is completely unacceptable. We will be monitoring that situation, I think, all year long. So that might be something we're going to get started here.
So, yeah, I mean, I just feel like Mirotic fits the build pretty good here. He gives you threes. He's going to give you some pretty good points. He's going to give you boost up those rebounds. He's going to be all right in the steals and blocks, keep you keep you competitive in both those categories, even though you may not be the absolute best team. And he's going to give you some pretty good free throws as well. Just building a real strong build there around those kind of categories of points, free throws, rebounds.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, Nico, I like Nico in almost any build. I think he's a top 50 player easily if you're getting him in the 60 range, which we often do. Obviously, he's available on Yahoo at that point, but he might be going a little bit earlier if people know what they're talking about. He's going to be great. He's going to be fine. And get out there and hashtag bring back the beard to Nico Mirotic. That would help me out, so I could respect Nico again.
Respect him. Respect him.
I'm gonna respect him, and then I could get my Nico Chia pet out and grow that beard back too. So I'll bring back the beard if he does.
Fair.
All right, with this last pick at pick 77, pretty late in the draft, probably could go really any direction here. If you wanted to go another big, Brook Lopez is always kind of interesting to me. If Chris Dunn is available here, I think he's our always picking that guy as our point guard. I think he's gonna be pretty good this year. Any particular guy who you think fits this build better than others?
You mentioned a lot of the good names, right, in this general area. To me, it's probably between Dunn. Maybe I'm looking at Enes Kanter if we don't pick Mirotic with that pick, right? If Mirotic gets picked and picked before, you might look at Canners just for his great rebounds. I feel like we're pretty solid in rebounds, though.
Yeah, rebounds are really good.
Brook Lopez, man, if you told me Brook Lopez was going to play like 28 to 30 minutes a game,
I'm banking on it. I hope he does. I'm still a little questionable about it. Watching him and play in preseason, how they do the rotations there in Milwaukee. But Bud's offense there really interests me, and I feel like Lopez has got a role there, and I think he's gonna play quite a bit. I just don't know who else they got going on there. He's gonna play like nobody wants John Henson on the floor.
Well, and here's another important thing to remember about Bud. We talked about this last year with the Hawks a lot, right? Like, even guys like Taurean Prince, who most people would say was the guy he was trying to develop in a rough year for the Hawks, like, he only played about 30 minutes a game. Bud is one of those guys who doesn't play a lot of his guys like a whole ton of minutes. So depending on how he's looking at Brook Lopez in his scheme, right? Could he throw some Ersan Ilyasova out there at center and do some weird things and keep Lopez's minutes down a little bit? That's definitely something to watch early in the season.
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely a risk. But Brook Lopez does end up playing 32 minutes a night. He's going to be a top 50 guy.
Yeah, and we saw, right?
He could be anyway.
Well, he struggled a lot last year early on with the Lakers, but then once he started getting consistent minutes, like, he was pretty consistently good again.
He still has it. Yeah, it's still there.
So, I mean, I have no issues picking him with this pick. I would say there's some risk to it, and I think I want to get that out there for everybody making that pick is you got to realize that one's not as surefire bet. Like, Chris Dunn's going to play a boatload of minutes for the Bulls, right? Like, there's nobody to back him up. This has a safer role.
Cameron Payne, bro, he's coming hot.
Your favorite player in the NBA, Cameron Payne?
Bulls are going to be the worst team in the NBA.
No, there's a team in Atlanta, man.
I've 180'd on him. I was all excited about the season. Then I saw him try to play defense, and I was like, okay, never mind. We're gonna get Zion in the next draft. It's gonna be great.
Dude, they're gonna be fun though. There's gonna be some shootouts. Like, shootouts are fun. Scoring points is fun.
Why not? Of course, I'm in.
They're going to win some games in that East just because that East in the bottom half is bad.
It's very bad.
The Magic don't have a point guard. The Hawks don't play well on either side of the ball. Brooklyn is Brooklyn. Like, they're kind of just a weird cast of characters. They're probably better than the Bulls this year, but they're kind of a weird cast of men.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's going to be a mess in the East, as it always is every single year. So, like, what's new there? One guy I actually want to throw out who is playing in the East, who I think is getting a little bit overlooked, and I get why, but maybe he's getting too overlooked. And I think Tyreek Evans actually is going to play a bigger role in Indiana than originally we thought when he went there. And if he is playing a bigger role there, he could be someone interesting that you take, maybe not with the 77th pick, but maybe the next round, maybe in the 8th round. And he's falling all the way down to pick 100 in Yahoo. So I think that's a little too late for him.
Yeah, I'm with you, and we've seen pretty much every year that he's healthy and playing even like 25 minutes a game that Tyreek Evans is pretty darn good for fantasy.
Yeah.
You gotta like his chances of getting that, and I mean he played 30 for Memphis last year. He could push up beyond that. The worry, and I'll just throw this out there, you guys take it for whatever you want to take it for. 25, 40, and 52 games the last 3 seasons.
Bit of a worry. Though some of that Memphis was shenanigans.
Was it or wasn't it? I don't know, man. I don't. We were. I mean, I
shenanigans.
I honestly like. Okay, we said we were going to trade him and we sent him home, but then like he never came back. So was that we told him to stay away? Like,
which is funny. It's funny that the Memphis can just be like, please leave. But if Fred Hoiberg plays, Cameron Payne like 5 extra minutes, the league fines the Chicago Bulls. But if the Memphis Grizzlies send Tyreek Evans literally home to sit around and do nothing and get paid for it, that's not taking, guys. Don't worry, that's not taking.
Which makes me think there was a legitimate reason that never quite got out, whether that was some personal issue or some injury issue. I don't know. But I mean, listen, like if he was healthy enough to play, right? And healthy maybe isn't the right word, because maybe it was like we saw with Drew Holiday, like maybe he had a family issue that
you never know.
Right? Like but this guy was averaging 19 points a game with 5 assists and 5 rebounds a game.
That's nice.
Like to just not like somebody would have given them something of value for him if he wanted to play, right? Like so to just send him home and not play him like on the last year of a contract, like why in the hell would you not trade him for even a 2nd round pick if that was all you could get?
Yeah, it made very, very little sense. I have no idea there. But I think that wraps us up for the Who Do I Draft with Kevin Durant. Pretty good team here. We went John Wall with pick number 20, getting ourselves an elite point guard, followed by K-Love, who is going to have our rebounds way, way up there, help us with assists from that center position. And now our scoring looks really, really good. Our free throws are really, really good. Gordon Hayward comes in at pick 44 in the 4th round, boosting our scoring again, giving us kind of across-the-board production, boosting our rebounds as well. And then with pick 53, Ricky Rubio, of course, Tyler's favorite guy, but I love Ricky Rubio as well. And then a surprise move in pick number 6, Nico Mirotic, Tyler picking my guy. Bring back the beard. And then with pick, the 7th round pick, kind of going a lot of different ways. If you're really into Nurkic, like pick him. Why not? Brook Lopez could be really good. Chris Dunn, everybody likes him. He's going to be elite in steals. Like go after Chris Dunn. Maybe you want your booster percentages with Enes Kanter, and 100% win rebounds with that build if you go Enes Kanter. So
and
a lot of different ways you can go.
This is worth saying, and I think maybe people are finally realizing this with the way we've been talking about these drafts. Like, we have players that we think are valued pretty properly in some of these places and players that aren't, right? Like, in that range we just talked about for the 7th pick, like, I'm not picking Serge Ibaka, man. Like, I'm just not. I'm not picking him there.
No.
I'm not doing it.
D'Angelo Russell? No.
You know what I mean?
Sarge? Nope.
You know what I mean? And as it gets later and later, right, those players get maybe a little more plentiful because you see some upside in Jaren Jackson Jr. and a Larry Nance and a Wendell Carter, right? Like there's a lot of guys in the clump there, and they could all be good, and it all just depends on which one hits. But like up there,
if everybody's reaching down, then all of a sudden Ibaka becomes very valuable at pick 100.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean. Like you got to just kind of take some value at some points, but at the same time, like if you're like Mike and I, and you think John Collins and Jared Allen are going at their ceiling, like don't pick those players. Like even if you need a center, like there's gonna be other big men available. Like at some point you're gonna get a big man at a decent value. And like there's Nick Vucevic right there, right? I'd rather have Vucevic 10 times out of 10 over both those players.
Yeah,
like, say what you want.
Let those guys go, because that means in your next round, when someone's reaching for those guys, like Collins and Jared Jackson, no, not Jared Jackson, Jared Allen. Jared Jackson's a whole another person. But some people are reaching for him too, and I'm a huge fan of his. But if people are reaching, that means there's going to be quality players like Gordon Hayward who slip down to you in your next pick. So that's what you're looking for. If someone goes gets John Collins, great. Like maybe John Collins has a really, really good year, but he got him at his absolute normal, like the value that he produced. While you ended up getting Vujovic and Gordon Hayward, both at either at their value or undervalued. That's a better draft. It just is. And some of the reasons we can't really go with these last picks and say 100% take Chris Dunn, 100% taking his Cantor is because I don't know who else got drafted on these other teams. If someone went Andre Drummond, Dwight Howard, and DeAndre Jordan, well, they're probably going to win rebounds, so it doesn't really make too much sense to go Enes Kanter just to boost your rebounds if you're not going to be the most elite guy in rebounds.
Yeah, but it might make sense. It might make sense to boost it and be the second best guy because then every other week you're beating. So, I mean, you got to look and you got to try to scout the other teams. And here's the other reality, too. You got to, like, someone surprises me in every draft, at least a little bit, right? Sometimes it's Goran Dragic falling to pick 80.
Like, or 100.
You know what I mean? Like, you telling me that guy's not going to be, if he's healthy, a top 60 or 70 player? Like, I just think the vet of that is a pretty high percentage, right? But he's going at pick 64. So, like, where we're looking at him, like, we're not really even mentioning him because we like guys like Jeff Teague and Ricky Rubio better. But if he falls down below that Chris Dunn class, right, and he's in there with the point guards of, like, fake Eric Gordon and Tyreek Evans and Carmelo Anthony range, right, at, like, pick 100, I'm pretty interested in Goran Dragic.
Oh, yeah, I'm very interested at that point.
And so, we can't tell you what's going to happen in your particular draft, and I think that's important to say is that, like, it's easier at the top because we basically know who's going to be available. At the middle and late rounds, like, it just keeps getting more and more cloudy because maybe – and I see this in drafts, especially like home leagues or whatever you want to call them, where the guys maybe don't really care that much, right? If you're a big Utah Jazz fan, maybe you pick Joe Ingles at pick 30 because you love Joe Ingles and you like to root for him. Like, that happens in real leagues, and that's not something we can account for.
Listen, there's a lot of Laker fans out there, and there's a lot of Lakers going early, and I'd be plenty happy to play in one of those leagues because I'm not a huge fan of any of those guys. So that just means better value for me as those guys fall. And that's why we kind of try to give you a wide range of guys to pick from and try to lean on those guys that we say, hey, these guys are always available around these picks. They're being undervalued. Just look for them. If someone drops, take that person instead. If no one drops, take the value. Don't go with the guys who are giving you who you're taking at their ceiling. Just don't. And that's the best advice that we can give you guys on our Who Do I Draft series. We might have one more for you. I think due to popular demand, we are going to be doing the only Russell Westbrook. Though with the injury, I don't know how many people are going to be taking him in the first round anymore, Tyler. So I don't know if we should do the Westbrook. But if there's more tweets out there for people who want to see Westbrook taken, we will do Westbrook. Maybe we'll do a LeBron one as well.
So here's the fun part about doing Russell Westbrook. I'll make the pitch for the show in case anyone wants to tweet about it. Okay. The pitch for the show is Russell Westbrook, more than any other player picked in the first round, such that he's healthy and he deserves to be picked in that first round, is the most diminutive player, I guess is the word. Like, it's the easiest punt build in the world because he tells you what he's good at and he tells you what he's bad at. And so you just build the team with the way he lets you build the team because in some of his cases, you're not coming back from what he did to your team. So, you know what I mean? Like, so he puts you in a box, right? It's like picking Drummond. He puts you in a box. Now you play out of it. There's nothing wrong with picking Drummond. Like, Drummond's good at what he's good at, but he's bad at what he's bad at. And he's so bad at what he's bad at that you're not recovering.
you're like 100% never going to recover from those. But
So,
you're like leading in quite a bit of stuff right off the bat.
right, and so that's what makes it fun to talk about, because we can literally make a whole new set of rankings for a player like Westbrook. Like if I know I'm going to pick Westbrook for whatever reason, and here's a draft I'd like to do, Mike.
What about LeBron and Westbrook in the same draft?
No. Here's a draft I'd like to do, though. Okay, this is my new take on a snake draft. Okay, so we do the random order draw, whatever you want to, however you guys want to determine who picks where, whether it's last year's standings or random or whatever. Okay, that happens like a week before the draft. Okay, then the first round happens like slow, and then the draft takes place. So you know one player you already got. I think that would add, especially for somewhat novice players, that would add kind of a layer of helping to learn how to be better at this. Because now you can get advice from people like us because you know who your player is in the first round. You don't have to worry about like, well, I'm going to pick 8. Maybe I get Durant. Maybe I get Jokic. Maybe Curry slips. Maybe it's LeBron, right? Like, so that's kind of a take that I've had on it that I think would help some people, especially some people who maybe aren't that skilled yet. And we all gotta learn somehow, man.
Oh yeah, I mean, all your news players out there, if you guys got questions, hit us up, and I'm gonna put a poll out there on the Twitter. Who would you rather hear the Who Do I Draft about, LeBron or Westbrook? Go vote on that now. I am on Twitter at.
Wait, is both an option? What if I want both?
Both is not an option, guys. It's not an option. If we get a lot of votes for both, if it's like 50-50, maybe we'll do both.
I'm gonna make 900 burners and tweet and click like crazy on both.
Well, go find that poll at Watch the Boxes on Twitter. Go vote on that. You can find Tyler at Tyler P. Watts. Hit us up with feedback for the show, stuff you want to hear. And if you want to join those listener leagues, this is your last chance, guys. This is your last chance to join the listener leagues. We got Dan's going to join. Lewis from one of the last shows, he's gonna join. Mike Taylor is going to get exclusive content on the Patreon. That is patreon.com/watching the boxes. If you want access to that, go subscribe, check it out. We are going to be bringing you, real soon, real life basketball. I can't wait. Like we're about a week away.
And the NBA did good of giving us 2 games on that first night that I'm personally pretty excited about.
Oh, yeah, those are going to be really good games. So check us out. We'll see you next time for more Watching the Boxes. Have a good one, everybody.